Good morning. Hello, my darlings. I hope that you all had a wonderful weekend. Welcome to Monday Morning Tea with me, Abby Levine. And this morning, our topic is how to free up an extra 24 hours a week, at least, by saying no to things that you don't want to do. This is an intro to boundaries. I am a huge fan of talking about, of implementing, and practicing boundaries. Hey, Christy. Good morning. So it's something that I talk about frequently. I talk about it all the time, actually, because I truly believe that if we were in relationships where we were happier, where our boundaries were more healthy. Good morning, Jackie. Where we could say, yay, where we could say what was on our mind, where we could avoid doing things that we don't want to do. Hi, Marie. I truly believe that we would be able to live a more content life. And so we're going to start very simply with boundaries when it comes to just simply saying no to doing things that you don't want to do. I don't remember the last time that I did something that I didn't want to do. I do remember, though, what happened. It was some kind of social event. I couldn't even tell you which one. And I said yes out of obligation. I said yes because I thought it would be good for my business. And I was worried about what my business associates would think if I didn't go. So I committed to it. And I'm a person of my word, so when I say that I'm going to do something, I will try to do it 100%. If I can't do it, I will let the person know as soon as possible. Try to give people as much notice as possible. But once I say yes, usually I'm going to be in. So I committed. And I really didn't want to go. As soon as I committed, I started getting that gnawing feeling, that you get in the pit of your stomach when you really don't want to do something. So many other events started popping up that I would rather go to. And I just said, no, thank you. I'm already committed to an event. And the more I started thinking about it, the more I started obsessing about it, the worse and worse I felt about it until 24 hours before the event, I got so sick. I caught some kind of random bug. By the way, I was the only one in my household who actually got sick. Good morning, Brittany. No one else in my house got sick. And I knew I'd done it to myself. I knew I had done it simply to get out of this event. And not only that, but it actually kept me down for about a week. It took me a week to recover from this sickness when all of that could have been avoided simply by saying no thank you in the first place. The first thing that I want you guys to do is I want you guys to look at your day and notice how many things you do during a day that you don't want to actually do. So that's the first step. You can write this down, or you can do it after the video or whenever, but that's the first thing I want you to do. I want you to write down all the activities that you do in a day and put a smiley face next to the things that you actually enjoy doing, the things that you want to do, the things that you chose to do. And then put a little dot against the things that you didn't want to do. So, if you work at a job that you don't love, you're doing that out of obligation. You're doing that to support your family. You're doing it because you must, right? And no one is arguing that. We have to pay the bills. We have to put a roof over our heads. And we have to be able to be there for our families. We have to be able to put food on the table. That's just the bottom line. And so we do what we must until we can do what we love. Just because you might be doing something that you don't love doesn't mean you have to stop it immediately. And it doesn't mean that you can't start deciding what you want to do once you're done doing what you don't love. What is that thing that drives you? What is your passion? And that's going to be a whole separate topic as far as, hi Brianne, oh thanks for the love, that as far as figuring out what it is that you do want to do, and then a step beyond that, how to make money doing that thing, right? But most importantly, it's what are the things that you're doing because you want to, and what are you doing because you have to, or because there's an outside expectation that's being put upon you that you should do that thing. Who are you meeting for coffee that you would rather not? What events are you going to that you would rather not? Good morning, Lorene. What activities are you doing that you would rather not? That if you had the choice, which you do, by the way, that's the secret, isn't it? That you have the choice. But if you realize that you are the architect of your life and that you chose whatever it is that you want to do, what is it that you would actually choose to do? Good morning, Sharon. Welcome. So, for those of you that missed it, what you're going to do is you're going to write down all the things that you do in a day. Put a smiley face next to the ones that you want to do, that you look forward to doing, that excite you to do. And put a little dot next to the ones that you don't want to do, that you do out of some sort of obligation. Good. I don't remember the last time I did something that I don't want to do. It was that story that I told you about when I got sick. Beyond that, everything I do is because I choose to. Everything I do is because I want to, because there's something in me that's compelling me to. I mean, there are things that I don't super enjoy, right? Doing admin, certain kinds of activities, doing the dishes. Ugh, I don't enjoy doing the dishes. I do enjoy the fact that I can support my husband in allowing him not to do the dishes every night. So there still is an element of choice there, right? If I told him I'm never going to do the dishes ever again because I don't want to, that might lead to some imbalance in our relationship, right? That might lead to some really stern disagreements. So there is an element of choice there still. I'm choosing to because I choose to, yes, exactly. I choose to keep the peace in my relationship by pulling my own weight. It's the very least I can do just to wash the dishes for 3.5 days a week. Why do we say yes? So why do we say yes to doing things that we don't actually want to do? We say yes because we want to be liked. We say yes because we want to please people. We say yes because we don't want to be disliked. And yes, being liked and not being disliked are two completely different things. You can focus on wanting to be liked without being worried about wanting to be disliked. It is harder to separate them. If you want to be liked, you probably also don't want to be disliked, but it's not synonymous. It doesn't mean that if you want to be liked that you automatically don't want to be disliked. They are separate. And another reason, the last reason, is because we don't want to be talked about negatively, right? We don't want people to judge us. And so we might agree to do something that we have no interest in doing for those reasons. And we got it from our parents. Usually our moms, right? Our moms are the ones who bent over backwards, who, right? Who we never saw doing anything for themselves, who we constantly saw doing things out of obligation. Never, I know, right? I know, it's so simple and yet so profound once you can see it. Just because our moms or our dads behave that way doesn't mean that we have to. And newsflash, the more we do that, the more we do things out of obligation, the more we're teaching our kids to. Anybody else notice that millennials and Gen Y, Gen Z seem to have a much easier time at saying no to things that they don't want to do. Why? Because we have begun to break the cycle, right? So we've begun to show the younger generations what it means to say no. And now that we've taught them, we can circle back around and help ourselves with that. It's time for us to take our own space back. It's time for us to take our own boundaries back, to honor the sanctity of our day, of our time. It's so precious. We'll get into time management and all kinds of different things relating to time, like time scarcity and things like that in other videos as well. But it just begins with learning how to say no to things that you have no interest in doing. One of the biggest payoffs for saying no to something that you're not interested in doing is you actually get more time back. That's huge. If you're like me in the past, at least before a couple of weeks ago, I was constantly saying things like, there's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough time. I don't have the time to X, Y, and Z. Well, just think about how much time you would free up for yourself if you just say no to things that you don't want to do. And it doesn't mean you have to be cruel. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be rude about it, right? It's just a simple, no thank you. The end. And it's so funny because when I teach this concept to my clients, it seems so simple, but when I teach this to my clients, they're like, okay. Well, I can say no because X, Y, and Z. I can say no because X, Y, and Z. And if you need to have a reason to baby step yourself into this process, by all means, have a reason. I did in the beginning when I was first teaching myself how to move into this process of saying no to things I didn't want to do. I did have a reason. And it wasn't an excuse. It was always a genuine reason because I always wanted to remain authentic. But the bottom line, the very basis of the authenticity of that is I didn't want to. I just didn't want to, right? I think I posted on one of the life hacks that the PTA, I'm a member of the PTA, and the PTA, yay. Hi, Nati. Good morning. The PTA at my daughter's school constantly, sends sign-up forms for different events and can you volunteer in the classroom and X, Y, and Z. And yes, I am incredibly busy. And yes, my time is very valuable. But bottom line is I have zero interest in doing that. Absolutely none. No, I don't want to hang out at school for hours at all. There's nothing in me that wants to do that, right? So I just politely decline. Because I don't want to. And I don't give an excuse. It's much easier then, right? But I do the same thing for events. When people ask me or invite me to an event that I don't want to go to, I'll just politely decline. It doesn't mean I don't like the person. Doesn't mean that the person's done something to me. Doesn't mean that, there's any negative feelings at all. But maybe I would just prefer to sit on the couch. Maybe I would just prefer to go watch a movie. Maybe I'd prefer to go have a glass of wine at my favorite restaurant with my husband, whatever. I have my priorities, and they come before other people's feelings, right? And that's kind of the key. It's putting other people's feelings before yours and putting other people's expectations of you before your own expectations of yourself and before your own feelings. And that is a whole process in itself, right? And sometimes we have to start outside on the outwards and work our way in. What do I mean by that? Sometimes before we think that we are worthy of putting our own feelings first, we have to start by practicing that. We have to start by actually doing it, by doing the practical activity of putting our own feelings first until the inside feeling that we deserve to put our own feelings first, that everybody has a right to have their own feelings, their own desires, and to make those a priority over other people's feelings, then eventually it just kind of meets in the middle, right? It's kind of the fake it till you make it expression, but fake it till you make it doesn't mean be a fake person. Fake it till you make it means do the activity with the expectation that your inside feeling is going to match the activity. It's the same with self-love. It's the same principle that I teach my clients with self-love all the time. So, some of our fears, good morning, Gina. Some of our fears about saying no to activities that we don't want to do, or saying no to things or people that we don't want to do, is that we're concerned we're going to end up friendless and alone. I've heard people actually say that. Well, what if nobody wants to hang out with me? I mean, let's be real. If you consistently say no to going to events that you don't want to go to, you're probably not going to be invited back to that event. So what? Like, if it's an event that you never wanted to go to in the first place, who cares? Right? It's a crazy concept, but who cares? I know a lot of us have, the fear of missing out, FOMO. You're not going to miss anything. If you don't want to go hang out with people that you don't particularly want to be around, then you're saving yourself some time. You're saving yourself some effort. You're saving your energy to be able to use it to put towards better things that you do want to do. Freeing up that time to just relax, to just spend some time with yourself and veg if you want to. If your friends are so shallow and so fickle that you saying no to a couple of events is going to cause them to unfriend you in life, then it's time to make some new friends. And that's the bottom line. And there are tons of really wonderful and amazing people out there. And here in Santa Clarita, there are so many wonderful people out here. You just have to meet them. Don't worry about the shallow people. Don't worry about the fickle people. They're not serving you. And when we get into deeper into boundaries and creating healthy relationships in your life, which is what we're going to be talking about next week, then you'll see what I'm talking about. You will be able to feel what I mean. All right, so how do we practice saying no? You just start. You just start saying no to things that you don't want to do. Some questions that you can ask yourself, right? Because in the thanks, Lorene, I'm so glad you agree. In the beginning, it can be difficult to decide if it's something that you don't want to do, or if you're being pulled to do that thing because you want to be liked or because you don't want to disappoint, right? So you can ask yourself a series of questions. Question number 1 is, will doing this thing, will doing this activity, will meeting this person for coffee, will doing whatever it is, will doing this thing align with my purpose? I love you too. Will it align with my purpose? If the answer is no, you better not do it unless you just want to, right? That's the other thing. If you just want to relax, if you want to chill out, well, that's your purpose, right? Will doing this thing align with my purpose? Doesn't mean it will align with your life purpose. You can't be in alignment with your life purpose at every moment of the day because you will shrivel up and implode in upon yourself. Sometimes your purpose is just take a breather, just take a step back from life. So does it align with my purpose? Will it make me better? Will doing this thing make me a better person? Will it make me better at X, Y, and Z, right? Sometimes we do things in order to increase our skills and abilities. Will doing this thing make the world better, right? Especially when we volunteer, when we help people out, things like that. A lot of times when it comes to the day of the event, we can feel this dragging sensation. I don't particularly want to do this. However, does it align with my purpose? Yes, because my purpose is to make the world a better place in whatever way I can. And 2, will it make the world a better place? Yes, great. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and do it. Doesn't mean that your emotions are always going to be in alignment, but it does mean that at some point there needs to be a solid agreement within yourself, mind, body, spirit, that it is something that you want to do. Our emotions are fickle. They change from moment to moment, right? But that doesn't mean that we have to ignore them, and that also doesn't mean that we have to do things that we don't want to do. Never, never, never. And number 3, will it help me relax? Sometimes that's all we just need, right? We just need to be able to check out. We just need to be able to unplug. So those 3 questions can really help you differentiate between whether you're doing something, an activity, because you want to do it. Oh, thanks. Or if you're doing an activity because you don't want to be disliked, or because you're worried about what people will say about you if you don't do it. The final portion of today's Monday morning tea with me, speaking of which, tea is great, is that you don't need a reason. You don't need an excuse. That is kind of a challenging concept to grasp, right? Thanks, Lorene, you too. You don't need a reason or an excuse to say no. You can say no simply because it is your God-given right. It is your universe-given right. It is your human right to say no because you don't want to. You can. The only cautionary tale I would have for you is, actually I don't have a tale, just the caution. I was right the first time. Is make sure that you're not saying no out of fear. Be very, very careful, especially if it's something new, if it's a new environment, if it's a new group of people. Be very careful that the reason that you're saying no is not because you're afraid, all right? If you have an inkling that it's because you're afraid, do the thing anyway. We gotta push ourselves. We gotta stretch ourselves outside of our boundaries, okay? Sometimes you won't want to do the thing just because you don't want to. Honor that. But sometimes you won't want to do the thing because you're afraid. You're hitting up against your limit. You're hitting up against growth. And your mind is going, ooh, I'm terrified. I'm nervous about what's going to happen. And then I highly recommend that you do that thing anyway, because it's going to push you to a new level. You deserve to rest. You deserve to spend your day exactly the way that you design. That's why we're here. We are here to design our day. So start by taking responsibility for your decisions in what you decide to do with your day. Know that you don't need a reason to say no, and that it's your job to stay in absolute authenticity with yourself. You can do it. It might be a little bit tricky to navigate at first, but you can do it. Good luck. I'm counting on you to be authentic